Welcome back to Mindset of a Dreamer. This episode specifically it's very special to me. This is filmed back in December of 2023, and I was with my friend Clay. His name is Clay Canning. I went to high school with Clay, and we had a class together. This was like an architectural drafting class, right? And in this class, we had a machine in the class that would etch out stuff to be able to build like a model home with and stuff. And Clay, somewhere in there, came up with the idea to take, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but take a screen cover, like a glass screen protector, and etch on the screen protector. I don't know if you can see it. But I have the Dreamer logo on my screen, and he patented this idea. So at 21, 22 years old, this man is owning a business that is like an actual startup, like a real deal, like a business that some 70-year-old man would have, like that official. And he, pretty sure now, is either 23 or 24. But we filmed this back in December, and I had the opportunity to sit down and catch up with him. So we were just talking about business, and like he's kind of telling us what it takes to get to that next level and understanding the business mindset and scheduling. And we talked about a bunch of different things, but Clay is, man, he's always on call for me anytime that I need some sort of business advice, anytime that I need some sort of guidance, some sort of understanding of how to be an entrepreneur. He's younger than me, but man, he is very wise, and I'm so appreciative I'm very appreciative to have somebody like Clay in my life that can be a mentor to me, because he's like an expert, from where I stand. He won't tell you that he's an expert, because that's what real entrepreneurship is making sure that you're not the smartest guy in every room. So the rooms that he's in, he's not an expert, but he's really like that, man.
I woke up dreaming, reality looking better. I'm getting rid of these demons. My dreams ain't really deceiving. Hey, it's no saving. You want it back, gotta crave it. Baby, I feel like David. My mind is healthy, I know it. My mind is better, I show it.
Damn, it's crazy because honestly, like, podcasting is something that I've always wanted to do. And honestly, I started podcasting. Like, I did the first, not podcasting, but I shot an episode with one of my friends, like with my phone set up, had the lights and everything, and it was just phone audio and the phone. And it's just always been something I wanted to do. So now doing it and like being on the way here, I was taking it serious as like I prayed first, and then I was sitting and thinking, I'm like, okay, what do I need to ask him? Like, what do we need to go through? And I ended up writing a bunch of stuff. So it felt like
official.
It felt official, like I'm on the way, like I'm in the car and I'm on the way to a podcast, and I imagined it like this is on a big stage too. So it was just overall cool.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah,
dude, I'm excited. I mean, I do my pod. We don't do video or anything yet. I gotta like dial that in. That's something I need to focus on going into next year. Mm-hmm. We just did our 100th episode.
Goodness.
Officially, yeah. We've been doing it for over a year and a half, almost now. So we've
You drop every week?
Almost, yeah. We've missed like 3 or 4 weeks, like if I'm traveling or something and we can't coordinate it. But for the most part, we post every single week.
Okay, so
yeah.
How you been, bro?
Dude, I've been all right.
You been good?
I've been all right.
You've been killing it, dog.
We've been moving some units now, yeah.
You've been killing it.
Yeah.
So, do you have any screens with you?
Actually, I don't. That's so surprising. I don't have any screens because my office isn't here anymore.
You don't have to have mine. I'm saying in general. Okay.
I mean, I've got my packaging and stuff. I don't think I have a screen, though.
That's fine, bro. Because I just want to, like, I want to have something so people know. So, Clay here, he owns this company called Screen Skinz. And this is the majority of what we're going to talk about in this episode is to get to know not just about the brand, but about him and how he, like, basically your process, bro. Because I've known you. I mean, we went to high school together, bro. So it's cool that somebody from high school that I know and have been like kept in close contact with from high school, like, you're at this stage, and it's so inspiring. Like, I have this podcast. The goal of this podcast is to talk to other people that are chasing their dreams, going after something big, people that have achieved something, people that are trying to achieve something, and maybe even people that have like given up on their dreams and understand their perspective. You know, it's just mindset of a dreamer. So maybe let's just tell us what you've been up to, bro.
Oh, Jesus. Right now, currently, or do you want me to go back?
No, like what have you been up to since like
high school?
Since high school. Like what is the process of building? I guess we start with this Screen Skinz, right?
Yeah.
Tell us what it is.
Yeah. So
what
Screen
is
Skinz. So we are a screen protector brand, and we are the only one that is able to apply a logo to a screen that vanishes when your phone turns on. So essentially, I created this. So I created this when I was in high school. Like I was like very low key about what I was doing. Jesus, dude, back in 2017, so that was probably your senior year, I started doing Amazon FBA. So I was selling like screen protectors on Amazon. Like that's all I was doing. Making some decent money. Like FBA was a lot easier back then than it is now. And then had the idea of applying a floating gator logo onto a screen. It just kind of worked out. I've been working with manufacturers overseas, for a while.
In high school you was doing
In
that?
high school, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. This was in high school. So,
Okay.
like, dude, I've been working with manufacturers, like, learning the screen protector business, how it operated, and just kind of went with it. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to build this massive company. It was more just like a side project. At the time, I was honestly still going to go to college probably for engineering. Like, that was kind of my wheelhouse. And started product development. It was the perfect product. Mentioned it to a couple people. And the reactions were mixed. Some were like, "Dude, that's really cool." And then
Who were you telling them to though? Like who were the?
I mean, mostly like my family. Girlfriend at the time, and my mom. I'd always like brought her ideas, like this is kind of what I'm thinking, and she was like, "Yeah, like nothing ever like stuck." And she's like, "You brought me that one," and she's like, "That one was like." No brainer, So then I started doing patent research, like what's out there, what's in the market, and there was a big need for it because at the time we still had the iPhone 7, 6 and 7, so like there's a home button, and all that stuff. Now it's gone, right? The iPhone 10 came out, they got rid of the home button, they got rid of all that. So an old screen protector company, OtterBox was actually the one that did it, and Casemate as well. They would just print where the home button was and like print where the top. But now since it's full display, that's out the window, right? So my product allowed for you to keep branding on like a piece of glass on the front of the phone without disturbing the display or usability of it.
How is your mindset on that in high school? Because me in high school, bro, I mean, I was working, so it wasn't like I was like a complete bum, but like I'm playing Grand Theft Auto and not being the most productive like high school kid. How do you like, where does that start? Where does that stem from?
Honestly, how I grew up, kind of your environment that you're in. So I had older parents, I was the youngest. So I saw all my brothers, like how they operated, right? So I just learned from them. I saw their mistakes and I was like, all right, I don't want to do that. I want to do this. And I really take a lot of processes very seriously. Like I'm a very serious person at nature. And dude, it just kept rolling. It was like a snowball effect. It wasn't like I started doing this and I'm going to be a multimillionaire off of it. That was never like the intention. It was like doing this, make some money. This is fun. And then I started product iteration. And I mean, like designing things and like working with my hands, like that's my thing. Like I love to do that all day. And that's kind of what this product was. And then now, went to college, got my business degree, everything. Got a C on my business plan, by the way. Let y'all know. Got a C on this business plan, which is now
In high school?
college. This was in
in
college.
college.
Yeah. This
Okay.
is college. One of my
Okay.
entrepreneurship classes.
Got
Yeah.
a C.
Got a C on it. It was a 30-page business plan, and it was a really good business plan. I'm not gonna lie.
30 pages.
30 pages. Yeah. It was like 20.
So did you actually use that business plan when you were going into business with this?
Not necessarily. The one I created was more specific towards like universities here in Florida. So when I first started off, all right, I'll start like scratch here. So the product is one side of the business.
Yeah.
The licensing is like the total other end of the business. Like licensing is so important for this product. So what happened back in, this was 2019, I was learning about licensing. So I was just with my girlfriend at the time, going through some stuff, and she was helping me. And she was like, you need to reach out, to someone that does this, and I was like, all right, like, let's try and find someone that does it. Turns out the information at the time was public, so you could find people who are licensed in your product category, and you'd have their contact information. So I cold emailed a guy. Okay, she like forced me to cold email this guy. He responded back. All right, this was 2019. And he responded to us. His name's Randy. And read his email, and I was like, I'd love, 30 minutes of your time. Would love to learn more about licensing, nothing too crazy. And he's like, sure, let's do it. We were on the phone for like an hour and a half, like just talking about licensing. How does the game work? And he had no idea who I was, no idea who my product was. He had a connection to Lakeland, very surprisingly. And as I started to go up the ropes, met business partners and, brought a lot of people on, had meetings with fanatics, they kind of were helping us out. And they're like, yeah, you need to go talk to this guy, Randy. Like he'll be able to help y'all out a bit. And I was like, I looked like at my business partner. He's like, you know Randy? And I was like, dude, I had a conversation with Randy. This was literally like it's now 2021, late 2021. I was like, dude, I talked to Randy in 2019. I'm like, he probably won't have any idea who I am. Still had his contact in my phone. Called him up. He knew exactly, who I was, everything. And then now he's the reason we're able to have access to all these major licenses that we do.
So explain what licensing is to the people that aren't like business,
So licensing in my realm is obviously the rights to use someone else's logo, brand, whatever. For us, it's sports licensing. That's kind of our main thing. And now we're moving to entertainment. So we have access to the NFL, MLB, NBA, NFLPA, Star Wars, Disney, Marvel now. It's a really big market to get into, but it's one of those things like you're in or you're out. And if you're in, you're in. Like, they love you, but if you're out, you're never getting in. So it's like a very close community, and like you got to navigate it, a lot of partnerships, relationships. That's where my business partner, Sean, we'll dive into how I met Sean, but he is like really good at meeting people, like knowing people. Like if you want to know someone, Sean either knows them or knows someone who knows them, and he'll get you in contact with them. And
so you're more of like I sit back and I'm just like dialed in how to do stuff.
Yeah, for
systems.
For the most part, lots of systems, manufacturing, logistics, new R&D. So when it comes to new product development, new designs, and then like rolling out our new Samsung series we're about to launch.
So you've only done Apple this whole time?
Only Apple this whole time, yeah.
Sheesh.
Which is like, Apple is a majority of the market for us, because for our age demographic, 60 to 70% of those people have an iPhone. But now rolling out Samsungs, especially with entertainment brands.
It's all old people that have Androids, and they don't care nothing about the thing on the screen. And those people don't order from online either. They're
Correct.
like, I don't put my card on Amazon.
Yeah, and a lot of them, like the ones that are like really nerdy, like don't like our product at all, because they'll like try and pick it apart. They'll be like, yeah, they're like, this isn't a good screen protector. Like they're super like technical about it, and I'm like, actually, our screen protector matches with some of the best screen protector companies in the world, and they've done the testing on it, and I have proof that it's right next to it.
How does it feel like being like a young entrepreneur? You feel like people in the business world look over you, or are you
100%?
Yeah,
100%. It depends on the room you walk into. I'm in a lot of rooms like where I'm just the kid, because that's what I am, and I still look like I'm a kid, right? Like I don't look like I'm 30 or anything, and I'll still walk in rooms, man, and they just look at me, but then they find out like who I am or what I've done, and then they're like, oh shit, like it's pretty serious. And I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty serious about what I do. Like,
Screen Skin business, man. I wrote some questions down, so
let's go. Let's dive
say
into it.
So talk about the process from having an idea to bringing it to a business.
Okay.
It
doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't. It kind of happens in stages. For me, it was like, okay, I got this idea. How do I bring it to market? How do I do this? I did have knowledge working with a lot of suppliers and manufacturers. And building those relationships are like super key to having a successful business. You have to know your materials, who you're talking with, who you need to work through, your pricing structures. Like if you can build that will help you in the long run with any business. So like no matter what product you want to do, like connect with manufacturers around it, and then they will help you out. Like they helped me out with idea iteration and like connecting me to other people who are experts, within glass. But that was like step one. It's like, all right, I got this idea. How do I bring it to market? How do I manufacture this? So Well,
Are you already thinking manufacture on a big scale, or you're thinking I just need the one product like?
both. So I was thinking big scale at the time. It's like, okay, how do I align with a factory that I can work with long term to bring this product to market? Like, because at that time, right, if you're a massive company, most companies spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to bring a product to market, right? I don't have that kind of cash, right? So how do I build a relationship with a factory and say, hey, this is the idea, this is what I'm trying to do, and I can show them prototypes, I can show them this, and send them photos, like, and physical samples and stuff, and like, you just go back and forth, and they're like, okay, like, we can do this, we can't do that, and they help you a little bit with idea iterations because they teach you a little bit about how glass, for my examples, like how glass works, what are the chemical compounds, like stuff
Maybe
like that.
how other people are doing it as well.
Yeah, no one was doing it in our space. There were different methods. They were like, yeah, like maybe we could try this type of printing or this method, so they helped curate that from a manufacturing perspective, right? On like a one-to-one perspective, I can make them no problem, but it's like, okay, we can make one unit, but now can we make 10,000 using that same process? And it's like, it's very inefficient. So
Because you're talking about ordering the screen and then having it and you doing it
Correct.
on your thing.
Correct.
So you're talking about the process of getting it to you already designed.
Yes, already designed, ready to go to customer. And that was really tough to do that because when I was explaining it, to different manufacturers, they're like, wow, like never heard of that, haven't thought of that. But they would connect me with other people. So like building those like manufacturing relationships were like critical. And I still work with one of my main factories to this day that I've talked with for the past 5 years. And we talk every single night.
But you work with multiple different factories?
Correct. Yeah. You always got to have them lined up.
Okay. So. And how do you get them to make similar products? Because are
it's
you
tough.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Why are you working with multiple different people?
Mostly capacity issues and then quality. You kind of have your best, your good, your better versions. You do have that. And for us, it's capacity and what different factories are willing to do. We've aligned with, like, our main factory is really good with us. I'm flying out to Vegas in January and, like, meeting them in person for the first time. Like, they're going to be over here at CES, so it's going to be really cool. It's like,
wow.
Yeah, you talk with these people, like, 24/7. Now you get to meet with them. They live across the world.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's
So
all
I have what was the biggest learning curve? Let me ask you, like, looking at you. Hold up.
Oh.
What was the biggest learning curve that you have had, like, building your business so far?
Every hat that I have to wear.
Yeah.
Like, I wear different hats every single day. And then scaling a business, like, that's tough. Like, just scaling it.
What are the hats that you have to wear?
Everything.
Like from the beginning, what hat did you put on that you're like, this is all I got to do? And then you're like, oh, actually, I got to wear this too. Oh, and this one. What was like the process of figuring out that you had to wear different hats?
So first hat was manufacturing, product development, right? Like that was a thing, and then it became a legal thing, right? So like learning about patents, how to write a patent, how to submit one, how to get one, right? And I still wear that hat to this day. So that was kind of the second hat. The third one was like, all right, I got the product.
Yeah.
We're protected IP-wise. How do we bring this thing to market? So then you go to the marketing and sales realm. And then TikTok really helped me back in like the early days, 2020. That like really catapulted the business from an early stage, especially with everyone being at home. COVID did help my business a little bit. And that's, that was the
So
next
you
hat.
got a lot of your marketing stuff from TikTok?
Yeah. So simple TikTok videos back in the day would just like blow up. My first one generated like 2.1 million. A week later, another one like 1.1, and they just kept flowing.
Sheesh.
Yeah. So like people were just DMing me like hundreds. Like I still got that. I didn't even respond to because I literally couldn't respond to all these DMs if I'm still logged in. Like my message requests were insane. Oh, did I delete all of them? I might have gone through and deleted some. But dude, like, they just kept going and going and going, and they did not stop. Like, it was crazy. A lot of like athletes too would reach out. So there was a lot of cool stuff that happened. But that was like my first realm into like the marketing. And then I was like, all right, this is not scalable, because not only was I marketing, I was manufacturing. So any orders that would come through, like logistically, I was still doing them. And then it's like, all right,
You were doing everything yourself.
everything myself. Yeah.
At what point did you have to shift that? At what point were you like, okay, I've packed my 5,000th order. I'm done with this.
I still pack orders to this day.
Yeah.
Yeah. I still do it to this day. I actually enjoy packing orders. So
Because it's different. It's like, it's almost nostalgic now. It's like, back in the day, man.
Yeah, it kind of is. But after a while, everyone was asking more for licensed stuff. You know, they want the Packers, they want the Bucks. Like, and it's like, all right, you know, I don't have rights to that, nor do I want to produce these things and then get sued, right? Because I want to go about it the right way. So that's what like really like drove me to be like, all right, go learn licensing. So that was like the next step. So I was in college and just learning everything I could about licensing. Like, how does it work? And I was reading, watching videos. And then I started getting licenses. So I started with sororities, fraternities, stuff like that. That was like small stuff, which were fairly successful. And then I got USF. They were my first collegiate license ever. Then UCF followed, and then Florida State. And then I met my business partner to this day and kind of showed him, you know, what I was doing. And he's like, dude, this is actually pretty dope. You know, like, let's see what we can do. So then we started working together a little bit, had a meeting with Fanatics, and then Fanatics, you know, was like, you need to go talk with Randy, and then just, it's just full circle. Everything came full circle.
Bro.
Yeah.
That's so fire.
Yeah.
I have something, what is something that you learned along the way that boosted you after you figured it out? I'm going to go ahead and skip and say that the licensing is something that as soon as you learned, but what is something else, like maybe a business tactic or something to boost your productivity, or like something that helped you, like you once you figured it out, you're like, okay, I'm a better businessman now as yourself, not like all this different stuff that you figured out, like that's all this complex licensing and all this, but like within yourself, how did you like there's one point where maybe you weren't the most optimal businessman, and then you're like, okay, now I'm here, I'm efficient, let's go.
So that was me when I left my job at Publix.
Okay.
That was a realization. The first week I left, right? It was 2020, after the Super Bowl, and right before COVID hit, right? And the week after, it was the first week I was like, man, like I set my schedule, like I do this, right? And when you're getting into it, it kind of like sucks. Like you think it's great, and then you're like, well, what do I do? You know, how do I operate as an entrepreneur, essentially? So I started watching productivity things, and then now, I used to be like 6 a.m., 5 a.m., like grind every single day, morning person, like that's what I did. And I still do that every now and then, but now like I know my schedule, I know my habits. Like building really good habits is like, it's key to being a good entrepreneur, I'm not gonna lie. So wake up, coffee, emails, you know, journal, read, whatever you got to do, you know, figuring out that system for yourself, like that's crucial. For me, I just found, you know what, I wake up 7:30, 8 o'clock, you know, I don't wake up super early anymore, get some coffee, and then I just start working from there, you know. And right now I'll go to any local coffee shop, you know, just get out to go do stuff, and then answer all my emails, get started with meetings and stuff.
So how do you balance, so when you worked at Publix, which to everyone here in Lakeland is the job.
It is the job.
I just went to get a pub sub earlier, and the lady
was it good?
It was great.
Yeah,
it was a chicken tender sub, so you know.
There you go.
Phenomenal. The lady making it said her twin brother works at Publix, her husband works at Publix. That's the thing here.
It is.
So how do you balance, because you are blessed enough now to be able to design your own schedule.
Yes.
But somebody like me, I'm trying to build my business. I'm also like working a full-time job. I'm trying to balance. My business is somewhat successful as a side job, like as a side income, but not as the main thing. How do I go from, hey, I have all this stuff going on, and try to build my routine outside of that job and make it efficient without feeling like, oh, I'm not doing enough, or oh man, I need to hurry up and quit my job, and like it's not realistic. How like what is that transition? How do I get to that point, you know?
For me, it was like finding that free time. And so one thing I will say, it was a lot easier for me because I liked doing what I was doing, right? So when I wasn't at work, I wasn't doing schoolwork, like wasn't hanging out with friends, right? Because I was still senior, freshman year, you know, college kind of time. I would literally just be working. Like indirectly working on it outside of my Publix hours and what I was doing, and it was fun for me, right? So it was a lot easier for me. But as a person who say you're a little older now, right? You do have a full-time job. You might still be in school. You're trying to find that side hustle, right? Start off as a small little side hustle, just doing it a couple hours a week, like, and just roll with it. It's a little snowball thing, like, and it takes time. This shit does not happen overnight. Like, I hate the fake entrepreneurs. They're just like, oh, you know, you can fucking do it overnight. You know, you can do this shit. No, dude. I mean, where am I at now? It's taken 6 years to get to this point, right? And we did more units this past month than we did in the entire 2 years. So, like, shit takes time, takes a lot of development. So, as a side hustle, just start it and let it roll. Just keep letting it roll. And if it doesn't work, pivot. You know, find something else you want to do. You know, find another side hobby. Like, possibilities are endless. And then eventually, if you really want to take a startup, like, super serious, like, that's what I learned for Screen Skinz, right? Like, obviously, we're a product we're selling. But we had the realization, it's like, all right, we need to be a startup. We need to think like a startup. We need to be fast. We need to be lean. And we got to grow this thing as fast as we can. Because life cycles of products are generally 10 years, you know, 5 to 10 years. Like, that's your window. So you got to get moving quick.
And you might be entering at the end of a window sometimes.
Correct. Yeah. So for us, and I think about this, I don't know if you know this, so Apple just got sued for their newest Apple Watches, right? So their blood pressure sensitivity, whatever, one of their sensors in there violated some patents. So now they've had to recall. They got to pull off all the shelves, all of their new series Apple Watches. Okay, from a logistical business end, that's a nightmare. But imagine all the secondary products, right? So the new iPhone comes out for us, but they're like, oh, no screen protectors are going to be compatible with it. My business is done overnight. Right? So all these Apple Watch companies that do like Apple Watch bands, other accessories, if they were already going to market with their new stuff, they're out of, I mean, they're not that they're out of business, but like, dude, that
Well, it helps
kill
with
a business.
that scenario. Kind of, it still works because all the bands are kind of like
They're relative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying because
Yeah.
it might be like, hey, you don't have the detachable band in the new ones.
Correct.
You know, so then it puts all these side hustles.
Then you're locked on it. Yeah. Like,
dang,
it's
that's
possible.
crazy.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Yeah, so we think about it like the iPhone 15 came out, so we have to stay ahead of the curve on, you know, new phone models, and we work with manufacturers, some engineers to stay ahead of it. We found out they're curving the display a little bit more, so we got to be a little shorter on the edges. And most screen protector companies went to 4 SKUs, so they have one for the 15, 15 Pro, 15 Pro Max, and 15 Plus. Excuse me. We were able to cut it to 2, right? And if you think about that from a manufacturing process, that cuts your overhead by half of a new iPhone model, right? But a lot of time and preparation went into like, okay, how can we be leaner and cut this, you know, into two SKUs instead of 4 without like any, you know, product degradation, I guess you could say. So lots of stuff we work through.
Wow.
That's great. Yeah, it's fun. Like, we're working on new trays right now for the 15s that are reversible. So one covers a 15, one covers a 15 Pro because their frames are slightly different. We've engineered that. It's taken a long time.
Okay, so this goes into another question with kind of what kind of goes back to what I just asked you with productivity and like how to develop those habits. So, okay, you wake up, you get your coffee, like that's how you're starting your day. But then when it's time to work on stuff, what are you working on first? Like how much time are you spending going towards innovating, and how much are you spending towards trying to make it more lean? And then how are you maintaining? Because are those like those are 3 things that make sense or that are different, like innovative, trying to like make your processes that you're already using better, and then also maintaining and making sure that you're handling, you know, your customers and stuff. Yeah, current stuff that's going on.
Step 1 is customer service. Like, that's like number 1. I log on, you know, check Amazon sales, you know, Shopify, what are we looking at for the day?
Okay.
Step 2, you know, what's our emails, you know, taking care of any customer complaints, concerns, anything that comes in. Like, that's like number 1, especially now more than ever, because, you know, we go from selling hundreds to thousands of units, right? So that volume, you know, increases. So customer, number 1. Number 2 after that is production. So what needs to be in production? What are we missing? You know, if there's stuff going out of stock, you know, what are we doing about it? And then I also check anything that's incoming into the States. It's like, all right, where's it at logistically? Is it going to be in the warehouse in time? And then also I coordinate, you know, for this past week, the SEC put in an order for, you know, several hundred units. So like wholesale orders are another side of the business that we're like, all right, custom production shuts down, we got to do wholesale production. Like there's a lot of stuff that goes into that. And that's kind of the process, early morning till about 11 is kind of doing that stuff. So emails, customer service, and then dealing with anything logistically, and then making sure everything's like gonna work, for the day. Everyone has what they need, and we're we're good to go. Like there's no nothing stopping us from getting product out the door. That's like step one. Going into like 11 to 12 is kind of like meeting time. So 11 generally like if we have meeting with different marketing people, designers, like that's kind of, we do meetings 11 to 4. That's kind of that time. So anything that we have going on generally around that time. And then in between, some days, right, like today, had a meeting at 1:30. Got out of that meeting at like 2. And then 2 o'clock I was supposed to have a meeting. They weren't able to make it. So I was like, oh, I'm just going to go to the gym. Right? So that was a perfect time for me to go to the gym instead of going at like 5, because I hate going to the gym at 5. But, got to go to the gym.
So how do you balance because being an entrepreneur, bro, like something with me that I'm struggling with so much is just organization as far as, like, it goes all the way from business ideas to, okay, this is my task list, okay, to, oh, I got to work out, oh, I got to meal prep, I got to make some food, oh, I told my girl that I'm about to go do this thing with her, and then it's like, oh, I'm about to just shut down. Yes. You know what I'm saying? So, so how do you balance that type of stuff?
That's really tough. I had that happen yesterday or 2 days ago. I don't know. I had a lot going on, like several meetings. I was supposed to meet some people. Got to do Christmas shopping, right? I'm like, shit. I got to go Christmas shopping right now. But like that's always happening. It never stops. For me, it's mentally. I am like, a lot of people do the calendar game. They got to write everything down. They plan their day. They write it out. That's not me. I don't like to do that. I find it to be the biggest waste of time for myself. But that's like a personal thing, right? Like you have to figure out what works for you.
Do you forget stuff though?
I will. So for me, forgetting stuff is like, if it is not at the top of my priority list, it's gone, right? Like I mentally know what I need to do, and I have the head to be like, I'm doing X, X, and X, and that's it, right? Like if I need to do something secondary, like that's secondary, it's not coming first. Right? So I'll forget stuff, but it's not like super important stuff, right? It's more like secondary, like, so, someone asked me to do this. I'm like, oh shit, sorry. Yeah. I'll get to it. Like that happens. Like I got a couple things I got to do now, that I'm like, shit, I got to do that. But then I'm like, like he can wait an hour. Yeah. So it's tough. I say, start with writing your stuff down, plan your day. I think there's a really good book. I forget the name of it. It's like the Big 5. Like, what are the biggest 5 things you got to do this day that are going to move your business, even further, or in respect to self. So, what are you going to do today that's going to make you a better person tomorrow? What are those 5 things? And that's just what you got to focus on. For me, it's mentally, but a lot of people, they do the calendar, they write it down. There's an app called Twos. They're a local startup in Tampa. They're like trying to help a lot of people with that too. So if you want to download that app, highly recommend it. Some cool guys developing it too.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you feel like is something that you wish you would have learned and or maybe still can't grasp onto, and something you still struggle with? Because I think that there's in the world, it doesn't matter how big your business is. I think everybody struggles with certain things, whether it's habits or just some things you just I can't, I'm not good at that, man. I can't figure that out. What is something that you are really struggling with?
Nice.
They cooked us, huh?
They
what
did.
do we got to move around?
Yeah, there you go. Dude, discipline in the early days, that was hard. The discipline.
Hard as in you didn't do it and avoided it, or hard as in you did it and it sucked?
Both. It was a mixture. So I would go in waves. I would be locked in for a solid month. I'd be really good. And then the next just
into your schedule and routine?
Yeah. Okay. Schedule, routine, the business, every single day grinding at it, and then the next month I would kind of let off a little bit, right? There was just periods of time, and then shit just got a lot harder, you got to focus a lot more, you're going to bigger meetings, you're going to meetings with, damn, I can't say the name, but massive Fortune 500 companies, right? I've sat in those rooms, and you got to be dialed the fuck in, when you're in there, and now that was really tough for me, in the early days. But now, I've gotten that mindset of just, don't be a bitch. This is your product, this is your business. You know what the fuck you're doing. You know what you're talking about. get in there and crush it.
Uh-huh.
So that was something really in the early days that I struggled with. But now it's gotten way easier for me. Just like my mindset, my preparation for a lot of things. I used to somewhat get more anxiety, but now I'm just like very level-headed about it, because once I got that confidence in me, that was like, dude, like you just got to tell yourself, you know, don't be a bitch. You know, like this is your business, you know, like you set your schedule, you set your routine, you set your day. So do it, be optimal about it, you know, and don't be so hard on yourself. A lot of people get really, really hard on themselves about it, but you can't, right? Like, you can at sometimes, you know, that's what I said, you got to call yourself a little bitch every now and then.
It's, for me at least, it's when you're being lazy, that's when you can be mad at yourself. But when it's kind of like, hey, this is life, and like you're going to slip up and you're going to kind of fall off sometimes, and like you're trying, like the stuff that you're trying to do, who else is trying to do something like that? You know, it's like a small percentage of people is trying to do something as big as I'm trying to do, or as big as you're trying to do. So it's easy to doubt yourself in those moments.
It is.
You know,
it is.
Maybe talk about that. Like, have you doubted yourself at certain moments in this? Like to where you're like, hey man, I don't know if this is making any sense.
Yeah, Screen Skinz definitely had it. Like, it had its moments. You know, like, dude, it is. Once you get like year 1, year 2, like down the line, like it becomes such a fucking grind. And I say that so like vaguely, but like it is, like mentally it is a grind in your head, and it doesn't stop, and it bugs the fuck out of you, because you always think, well, you know, what if this doesn't work? You know, do I got to go get another job, right? Like, thank God, you know, I do have a business degree, so I can, you know, do something with it maybe, but it's like, that's not the goal. You know, the goal is I want to build this thing up, sell it, and then never have to work a day in my life again. Like, that's the goal. But like, I know I'm still gonna want to work.
But you'll get to work and do things that you want to do.
Correct.
Because you've put in the time.
Because you put in the time to do it, right? Yeah. And that's fucking hard, man. Like, it's like a mental asylum for me. And I think a lot of people do go through it, but just having the persistence to just keep fucking going. Like, I know you hear so many entrepreneurs say that, right? And it's just like, dude, just show the fuck up and just keep going every single day. Like, that is
sometimes it's hard, bro. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, there'll be times where I get in a slump, and you know, obviously my brand and what I push is self-belief, and like, hey man, you gotta believe in yourself. You gotta dream big, but it's not easy. It's not easy. It's, if anything, bro, it's easier to just go and work at that job, or do that. Do that 1000%. That thing that, hey, here's your schedule. You're gonna go stock the shelves. Then you take your break at 1, and then you get off at 9, and then you come back in tomorrow at 8. Yep. That's a easier, as far as like mental thing.
Yes.
Unless you have like some crazy big dream that you're trying to do, and you're being forced to go to that job. But when you have that dream and something that you're trying to do, bro, being unproductive for like 1 second sometimes can feel like, and it's not like, hey, I'm very productive, and then when I finally chill, it's like I'll wake up, and maybe I wake up a little bit later, bro. I beat myself up because I'm like, I know if I did this and did this and did this, I could be here, because where I'm at happened by me not doing. It's not like I've been waking up at 5 every day for 4 years. Like, there's a lot of, I mean, God's favored me a lot, but there's a lot of like luck that has been involved with how things have kind of slipped in the cracks in work.
100%.
You know, so it's easy for me to feel like, well, imagine if I was grinding that whole time instead of like sporadically you had those months where you were down.
Yeah.
It's easy for you to look back and say, hey, I had that month when I was down. What if I would have been locked in? I would have figured this stuff out here, and then I would have been here at this point, you know, like that.
It's a journey, like, and that's really what those ups and downs, you know, like a lot of those downs, you got to go through them, like and I feel like it's, you know, how they kind of weed you out for a job, for an interview process, right? It's kind of the entrepreneur's journey of just like, hey, you got your highs and you got your lows, right? And if you can survive those lows, like those highs will be amazing, right? So you just go up and down with it and just keep fucking going. For a long time, dude, I was the guy up at 5 a.m. every single morning at Starbucks, meeting business people, but working my ass off for at least 2.5 years. Like, that's what I did. Like, I was learning, reading, developing, like getting in that personal mindset of how to become an entrepreneur. Like, no one teaches you this shit. I'll tell you right now, I've taken tons of entrepreneurship classes. None of them taught me what I do now. P&Ls, forecasting, all the bullshit I do, right? You don't learn any of that in college. Like, you really don't. Any real life practical entrepreneur stuff that I do now, like, didn't learn at all in any of my business classes.
That's like something that I want this to be, is for myself as well, to I can sit down with you, bro, and you talking me through what you did and what you recommend and what you sucked at and how you got better at it.
Heck yeah.
I leave, this is a master class. And then I'm just going to put it out there for if anybody wants to watch it, you can watch it. But it's there, and in reality, I can't see it as like, oh, I'm doing this to get views or for this to grow. It's like, nah, bro, it's mainly for me to grow as a business person, for me to grow as an entrepreneur, for me to grow as a man, to sit with people that I'm inspired by, to hear their story, and like for them to talk about their process, like at the end of the day, and then talk about their dreams.
So there's one thing that I love, right? So I am a person that retain a lot of knowledge that I care about. Like if it's something I'm passionate about, I care about it, I will retain that knowledge, and like it sticks with me for a long, long time. But there's a lot of things I don't care about where I'm just like, oh, that's secondary for me. But when you're talking with someone, you don't know what they know. Right? You could call me at any time and probably ask me almost any business question, and I could probably give you a real life scenario that I've gone through. Be like, yeah, like, dude, this is what I did, you know, or, oh, my buddy X went through this, you know, like, this is what you need to do. Like, the experience that I've had in the past, like, 6 years has taught me so much that it's not even fucking funny. Like, it's insane, the knowledge that I have now, because I'm like, you know, what am I going to do next? And like, how much bigger and better can it be because of all this knowledge that I have now? You know, and a lot of people, if you're in my tight circle, right, you give me a call, I'll answer it. If I'm not in a meeting, I'll answer it, be like, yo, what's up? Like, what do you need? You know, stuff like that. But like, if anyone asks me a question or like, hey, do you know anything about this? If I don't know anything about it, I can go find out everything there is to know about it. And like, I will help you out. Like, that's the kind of person I am. And I just love doing that for a lot of people, and I think this is like a great opportunity, you know, for you long term. You know, like this is gonna be huge. It really is.
The podcast, just
dude,
in general.
The pod, yeah, it's gonna be big.
Nah, I think so, bro, because it's not. I feel like for me, bro, I've been big in like, I'm a talk first type of person, and I'm a let me tell you everything. Let's talk. Let's chop it up. Like, and I've always kind of like lived in this fantasy world that I know so much, and what this is giving me an opportunity to do is to like really be humble in my walk as a man, as an entrepreneur, as just somebody walking through life trying to grow, and sitting and listening, because a lot of people, I think, which me too, like start a podcast to talk.
They do.
I kind of want to take a different approach, not to say that, hey, I'm not going to just ramble on sometimes, but more of, I want to sit and learn and listen. And it puts me in a position to sit and listen to somebody that's smarter than me at certain things.
That's most of the meetings I'm in, right? Like, I mean, I'm the youngest guy in the room 9 times out of 10. You know, I think one of the funniest things I did was I flew out to Austin last year, Texas, and we were doing a project with University of Texas grad students, right? And they were doing analysis. They were doing an analysis on our startup. Okay, like we, you know, got in this program. I was the youngest guy there, and all the guys, like all the entire team that like I was like the head of, were like 25, all MBA students, and I'm just like 23 with a startup, like doing cool shit. Like that was like, I don't know if that was humbling for me. I don't know what it was, but dude, I just sat there and I was like, oh shit, like, you know, like this is real. It was honestly, it was kind of cool.
How important do you feel like a degree is?
It depends what you want to go for.
Yeah.
You know, wherever you're aiming in life, you have your big ones, so law, doctor, you know, anything in that realm, you got to go. I mean, it's pretty.
That's your path.
Yeah, that's your path. And if you're going on that path, it's going to take a while. You know, it's a grind, but it's rewarding.
As far as an entrepreneur, though?
It is not necessary. I think depending on where you go, who your professors are, they could be really big help. A lot of networking is needed to be a really good entrepreneur. That is something that like I didn't necessarily have to go through because of like the COVID era. So when I was becoming an entrepreneur, right, like building this business, it was during COVID. So like the networking was email, you know, calling, Zoom, like that was the new networking, like the normal for it. So it was a lot easier for me to network.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a lot easier, right? People would answer their emails, they'd answer their calls because you're not going anywhere, they weren't doing anything. It was a lot easier back then. And now that I'm out, a little bit more. It's like just networking, meeting people legitimately, you know. And for Screen Skinz, we have a stacked advisory board. I don't know if you know that. So,
I mean, we've talked about it, but I
Yeah.
honestly don't know a whole lot about like what they're
Yeah.
involved in or like
Yeah.
what it's an advisory board that's even used for.
Yeah, so when building a startup, and like this stuff I didn't know, right? Like I was just like getting into this as time went on, and someone asked like, "Oh, you know, do you guys have an advisory board yet?" And we're like, "No, like what's that?" You know, and you know, like, so, like that's a learning moment. And they're like, "Oh, you know, you bring on these advisors, you know, just like industry experts or like whatever you're trying to do, and they help your business." Like, oh, okay. So we signed on some branding advisors, you know, just general business people, licensing people. And then now it slowly went into, we brought on 2 Nike executives, you know, former president of Under Armour, you know, former, you know, director of retail accessories at Apple for 30 years, you know, like an owner of a soccer team overseas. Like this stuff, like it's compiled, and now you just have like this entire roundtable of knowledge, you know, and everyone has their own like expertise. And it's the coolest thing to have. And essentially the trade-off, you know, you give them a percentage or shares in the company, and their job is to advise. So,
Wow.
and they've made us connections. They put us in rooms that we would never be in otherwise, right? How do we get Disney and Marvel? Oh, well, someone knows someone, you know, and then they make an email intro, right? Like it's just like this big circle. It's a network, and you're expanding your network through these other people, and thus your business grows.
Did you see it going from where, like, when you made that first ever, like, you pulled out the first Gator screen that you had, you were like, this is it, this is fire. Did you see it going from that to here? Like, was this your idea for where it would get from the beginning?
I knew it was going to be big. There was no
just had a
doubt.
feeling.
Yeah. There was no doubt in my mind it was going to be big, right? A lot of people, they're very like micro in how they're thinking, and I knew this could be a really big product and a big idea, and the goal was to get it on every person's phone in America. Like that was the goal.
From day one.
Day one. Yeah, day one. And there's a lot more to the story too. I was, you know, talking with people, and I was like, I'm going to build this into $1 million business, and they're like, good luck. Like, you know, we don't think people will buy this. And I'm like, just watch, you know, and we've done that in, you know, a month. So it's like, you know, like, yeah, like it's real.
Dang, man.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah. It's fun.
Dang. I don't even have any more questions. I guess, how important is self-belief in this process?
It's 100%. You got to have confidence in yourself. You got to have confidence. You know, you got to have confidence in yourself. A really good motivational speaker I used to listen to a lot, Walter Bond. He always said, you know, the best kept secret in business is, are you likable? You know, like, do people like you? Do you have confidence around them, right? They're going to gravitate towards you. They'll talk with you. Like, that's the best kept secret in business. And, you know, I've gotten out here, and that's, yeah, like, he's legit about that, right? So you got to have the confidence in yourself. You know, I had a meeting with a major screen protector company, right? 2.5 hours. All rapid fire questions to me about my product, my processes, like what I do, like how the product works, like. And I went in there, and my business partner Sean came out, and he looked at me and he said, "You fucking crushed it."
that has to be a good feeling, huh?
Yeah. Like that was, yeah, because he didn't know that I would have the confidence to do that super well. But when I'm in the zone and it's about my product, my process, like, you know, it's telling yourself, don't be a bitch. Like, this is your product. Like, you are the expert in this. You know, like, they're asking you these questions. So it's like, have the confidence. Go in there, say it with a straight face every single piece of information that they ask. So it's...
How do you like fake the confidence a little bit? Like, not necessarily with other people, but I know you couldn't have always been as confident as that moment, because there's been a lot of times in this business where you probably knew nothing, but you still had to have that confidence in order to wake up and say, this is what I'm going to do.
Damn, dude, that's a tough question. I think for me, a lot of my confidence building, public speaking is really big. I hate public speaking, but I do it, right? I did it early days, speaking a lot of classes, you know, and now I speak to more classes, even bigger classes, a lot of college stuff. But way back in the day, there was a podcast I listened to called Business and Biceps.
You told me about it.
Dude, I tell anyone who wants to join the entrepreneurial journey, go listen to that podcast. Like, episode 1 all the way down to the last episode. Listen to that podcast, and the 3 guys on there, man, they changed my life for sure. And I wouldn't say they gave me the confidence, but they gave me that just, don't be a bitch mentality and show the fuck up, be smart, be creative, and do the work. And that's like what that podcast taught me, and the reason I met my business partner was through that podcast, right? So it impacted my life insanely, just from a mental perspective, and it's given me a lot of that confidence, and now walking into rooms where I have one of the coolest products possible gave me massive confidence, because you just show people, because they're like, oh, what's your 30-second pitch? And I'm just like, just show you. Like I don't have to pitch you. You'll just see it, and then you'll be like, "Oh shit, that's cool."
So let me ask you, how do you? Because confidence is one thing, but how do you not get wrapped up, or how are you working on not allowing that to be your identity? Because confidence and allowing it to be your identity, it can go hand in hand, and if you allow it to be your identity, it can make you confident. Only while it's doing well, though. And if this disappears, how are you not crushed, and how do you work to battle that?
So I struggled a while with my business identity, because a lot of people, like, they know me as a screen guy, right? Like, that's what I do. And I still struggle with that to this day. But to your point about confidence, so one of my favorite quotes, this goes back to Walter Bond. He says, confidence is arrogance under control, right? So you got to have confidence, right? But there's a line. And learning that line for yourself, it's important. But man, it's tough. It's honestly tough to do it. But now that early days, I was really quiet about what I did. I was very quiet, and I still am about a lot of things I do. But now I just stack the receipts. It's like, oh, yeah, dude, I got the NFL. Yeah, I got the MLB. Oh, now I have Star Wars. Now I have Marvel, right? So it's stacking the receipts to back my confidence in what I do. And then people look at it from the outside and they're like, oh, shit. Like, he wasn't fucking around.
Well, there's a lot of people I'm sure we even went to school with that still have no clue what you do, what you did. Like,
no idea.
Yeah, you see them, you're like, oh, what's up? They're like, hey, you still working at Publix? You're like, yeah.
I've had a couple people ask.
You're like,
you
have no clue, bro.
Yeah, you have,
you
no,
have no
idea.
clue.
No idea.
I could buy
what I do,
Publix.
I don't have that much cash.
At least a store.
Jeez, that's a lot of cash. But yeah, I mean, dude, the entrepreneurial journey is fun. It really is. And I try, so one of my really good buddies, he always tells me, he's like, celebrate the small wins. So I try and do that. Every chance I get, every little win, like, dude, this past month, we're absolutely crushing it in sales. A lot of major companies are laying off employees, right? And we're growing tenfold right now. So we're in a good spot. And especially going into this next year, hopefully the economy's a little bit better. People will have more money to spend, I hope at least. Jesus, we'll see. And then grow it even more.
What do you think the chances of that happening is?
Right now, pretty slim.
Yeah.
Right now, pretty slim.
I mean, honestly, bro.
I'm not super confident about that right now.
I mean, honestly, bro, like having a clothing brand, it's kind of wild because the last month.
Can I talk about that?
Yeah, go ahead, bro.
Do not call me about starting an apparel brand. This is the only guy that will call me and he's like, hey, man, I want to do apparel. Where I'll answer and be like, all right, if you take it serious, all right? Like, yes. Because, dear God, dude, so many people, like, they're like, oh, I want to get, an apparel brand, and they'll ask me about apparel licensing, and I'm like, no. Like, don't do it. Because that's one of, the toughest markets to ever break into. And you're doing it. I mean, I'll be honest, you're doing really well at it. But anyone else, do not call me about it.
I appreciate it. I honestly a lot of times don't feel like I'm doing well because I'm not as confident in my knowledge of it.
Okay.
And I feel like the branding aspect and being able to connect with people is where I have really benefited and have been an asset to my customers or to people that I support the brand, because it was people that was just supporting me before it was a customer ever.
Yeah.
And now getting to the point that it's at now, I still feel like I lack so much knowledge of that business and that industry. And a lot of the people in that industry are doing the same things. Nobody's being innovative. Nobody they're not. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of people that are being innovative, but there's a lot of people that are also entering in the same realm and they do the same stuff. So, and they're succeeding, but it's a lot of people excuse me, and all their clothes look the same, all their branding looks the same. It has no like deep true meaning that can really relate, but they're succeeding in it. And I feel like something that I do have somewhat is that branding aspect, but I'm not very confident in like my knowledge of materials, my knowledge of manufacturing, my knowledge of sales and marketing and business. Like I'm still so young in that process, bro, and I'm a novice, you know. I know nothing.
It takes time.
I know nothing.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, but
Yeah.
it's amazing to look back and like November was like the biggest year. Like we literally we made more in November than we did like since the past 4 years that this brand has existed.
Yep.
So that's pretty dope. I'll say that. But going into this next year is like I'm trying to figure out where to put my focus, where to, because I got to switch a gear, you know, and this year has been like kind of out of nowhere, boom, brands blowing up, everybody's knowing about it, selling thousands of pairs of shorts, stuff like that. And then going into this next year, I want to approach it a little bit different and kind of, I didn't keep track of every single thing that we did, everything that we ordered in the way that I should have. So now this next year is like going in, I'm taking a different approach and like, okay, let's be more organized. Let's try to plan. And like, since we kind of know what this last year looked like, let's pretend that we're about to have that same year, but like even bigger and better. And then let's plan for us to have a great year.
Forecasting.
Yeah.
Super hard to do. Even for us, we still do it now, like literally before driving here. Like I was having a conversation. Yeah, you know, we'll be moving 70, 60 units a day of, you know, this. It's like, all right, we got to prepare for that demand. It never stops.
Yeah.
Like, so learning that in a business, it's very critical.
I think it's, I mean, you have to embrace it because it's like that is what business is. Business isn't, okay, I buy this, I sell it, I keep this profit, I do that. Like business is all the ins and outs, all the, hey, I bought all this stuff, we didn't sell it, what do we do? Hey, I bought only this much and we have this much demand, what do we do? Like there's so much that goes into business and it's easy to beat yourself up when you don't have it all figured out.
100%.
But business is the process.
Yep.
Like entrepreneurship is a process. It's not a job title. It's not a, hey, I'm an entrepreneur. No, being an entrepreneur means that you are invested into this process. You are learning, you are trying to grow, you are taking L's.
It fucking sucks. I'll be honest, it sucks, right? Like everyone thinks it's like this glamorous thing.
Yeah, because how they promote, you got the Ty Lopez. He don't promote it like we kick back, bro. Yeah, all you gotta do is read books and you'll own this Lambo, and you don't work ever in your life.
Yeah,
that's not it, bro.
Some people might get luckier like that. You know, who knows? But dude, if you want an easy job, an easy path in life, do not become an entrepreneur because it takes a lot of time. Like you're not gonna make a lot of money up front. Like you think you are. Like you're like, oh, dude, we're gonna make a lot of money, and it's like, yeah. Give it 6 years, right? And then you're like, oh shit, like, you know, that balance sheet goes from, you know, you're looking at 3, 4 zeros, 5, 6 zeros, and then you're like, oh fuck, you know, and now we're going to 7. So it's like, how do you prepare for that, right? Like, dude, it's so tough. But
because you have to build infrastructure to even have that. You're like, okay, so this is our demand, but we have to build more. I can't spend time on that. I got to spend my time here.
Yes.
So we got to pay somebody to do that.
And I'm still building that infrastructure every single day.
So are you hiring, or is somebody else going to be in charge of that?
No. So actually, we hired on 3 or 4 people. They start in January for our marketing sales team that we're doing. We're dumping hundreds of thousands of dollars into like mass marketing this year. So. We're hoping to be really successful at it. We're launching all our new Star Wars stuff on Amazon, hopefully within the next month or so. We're dumping a lot of money behind it. So we're just trying to get units out the door, you know, and hopefully align with some big partners, you know, that we have in the pipeline, which will help. Because the goal is, you know, once you become a legitimate startup, you take on capital, venture capital or whatever, the goal is you got to sell the company. You know, you're either going to IPO on the stock market or you're going to sell this thing for, you know, millions of dollars. So our goal right now is like, all right, how do we grow revenue as fast as we can to either bring this thing to be a massive company, have a really good exit, or go the IPO route, which right now wouldn't be the smartest idea just because of, you know, where the economy's at. But goal is, you know, build it, get as many units out there and sell it.
So in the beginning stages, like go back to... as a startup, when you have a startup, how do you know when it's time and how much to pay yourself?
Ooh. There's a couple lessons on that because there's a lot of things, you know, they're like leaders eat last, right? And it's like when you're a startup, when you're growing this thing, you know, I made mistakes as well, you know, of not paying myself in the beginning, right? Taking different cuts. Once it becomes pretty legitimate, you know, you want to make sure your basics are covered. You know, you can have a life outside of your startup, but at the same time, like your startup's the focus. So year 2, year 3, you know, hopefully try and pay yourself depending on how much capital.
So you're not
trying to
paying
bring
yourself nothing until then.
Correct. Nothing. You're not making a thing off of it.
Okay, so if that's the only thing that you're doing, and you have, let's say, you know, some people have bills, and you have rent, and you have car, and you have, you know, life that you have to pay for, but your business is doing solid.
If it's
like,
solid,
let's say
know,
somebody's making 10K a month. Their
Okay.
business is making 10K a month.
Yeah.
Not necessarily they're making 10K profit. They're making 10K, maybe spending 5K to make that 10K. Whatever. I don't know what it would be.
That would be more of a business, not so much a startup. Because a startup, you're generally spending way more than what you're making. Because what you're trying to do is accelerate growth with the fuel of capital, right? So you're taking on $500,000, $1 million, you know, in capital.
Oh, okay.
Right. So there's different perspectives to it. If your business is doing something like that, obviously look at, you know, you can definitely pay yourself, right? If it's becoming, you're like, all right, you know, expenses this month were $3,000, but we made 10. Right.
Yep.
So there's a gap in the middle. It's like, oh, you know, I'm going to take home 2.
Yeah, but
Like,
how
it's definitely a
at
thing.
what of that number is it should be comfortable, because some of that is like, okay, we'll reinvest. We need samples. We
Yep.
need this. So sometimes it's like, okay, we made 5K last month. We made 10K this month. Okay, that 10K, we're about to buy 10K of inventory. Next month we made 20K. So do we buy another 10K of inventory and then spend that 5K, that extra 5K on more inventory, and then the last 5K on samples and
Yep.
and going through the process? How do you recommend that somebody that's starting business, maybe they're not even touching numbers like that. Maybe they're making, you know, 3K a month and it's their side hustle, but they got bills to pay, but they want this side hustle to be their thing so they can put all their focus in it.
Yeah.
You know?
Early days, be self-aware of your situation. You know, like if you're still young, living at home, you're not going to college to get massive debt, right? You can be pretty lean with how you're operating, and that's like strategy number 1. Don't go make 10K and then go buy a Benz. Like, don't do that shit, right? Like, what you need to do, have a decent car, one that runs for you. You know, you doesn't got to be lavish, right? But build your life, you know, for the basics for now. Because in the long run, while everyone's still at their basic job, they're driving, you know, their basic Nissan, whatever car they're driving, you know, in 5 to 6 years, you're going to be on the flip side, right? And then they're going to look and they're going to be like, man, like, where was this guy at, you know, years ago? You know, like you hadn't made it yet, but now that you've made it, they're like, damn, like he sacrificed, you know, and that's what it is. You know, you're sacrificing right now. It's the same thing with discipline, right? You're either going to pay for it now or in the long run. The question is, what bill are you willing, you know, to flip? You got millions of dollars after you build a successful business, you know, you sacrifice for years, but guess what? You're in a way better spot. You're not working a job. You have the freedom to do what you want to do.
It's really not, in reality, it's not sacrifice, because it's not like you're super duper struggling. It's sacrificing if you care about what other people think. But in reality, is like, the idea is to have those millions and still not care that you don't drive a $200,000, $300,000 car. I mean,
I guess for me, that's ego talking a little bit. I
Yeah.
do have a big ego in a lot of aspects of, like, you know, I wouldn't say people have doubted, right? They're like, oh, like, you know, you're doing cool things, but I'm like, no, I don't think you fucking understand.
you're getting comfortable with where you're at now. It's not
Little bit.
just ego, like, oh, I deserve, because you're a really humble, like, you know that you're like in the beginning stages still, and you know what your potential is. So
100%.
you're confident. I wouldn't
Yeah.
necessarily say that you have an ego. I would say that maybe you're more confident and like, yeah, I'm here now. Like we're
This is
going
it.
big with it. We're
Yeah.
going big with it. Like,
Dude.
you're there now.
Like, I had a guy, a good friend of mine, he's at the Packers Stadium, you know, at their pro shop yesterday. He sent me a photo of my product on all their shelves, right? It's like, that's my product in Green Bay, the Packers Stadium, right, with the Packers logo on it, sitting on a shelf,
Yeah.
right? Eventually, you're going to see it in Target, you're going to see it in Walmart, you'll see it at Verizon. Like, that's the goal,
Yeah.
right?
You got to really, really make sure that you keep that small town kid mentality. You got to make sure that you keep that small town kid mentality, though, always, because people can like lose you know, you don't want to ever lose yourself. I know that you're not that type of person, but you don't want to lose yourself when that money comes in, when you have $10 million in your personal bank account. And you're like, man, I could do whatever I want. You don't want to get to that point and then completely disconnect with
100%.
that innocent, like, hey man, like, you know, this is where I started, you know, because a lot of people, they forget where they came from, you know. A lot of people, especially on the influencer side of things, you know, you'll have people that blow up with millions and millions of followers, and they forget that, like, you don't remember the people that you was just doing, like, you know, and it's like that type of thing. You don't want to do that, you know.
I got my list, you know, people that I'm gonna take care of pretty well, right?
Yeah.
like I
You
got
got
a
me
list.
on the bottom of that mug, like
You
number
might be
38,
all right.
David Ratsey, number 38. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're gonna buy me a pub sub.
We'll go back to Publix. I think, you know, something that was like really funny for me is one of my old managers that, man, I just hated, like just a bad person, you know, from Publix. And I was like, man, like I never want to be like that. And I go back years later, still the same thing. They're still there.
You know what you should do when you're stupid rich? Buy him a car. Buy him a car that he can't afford the car insurance.
Yeah, they're not that special. There's a couple people that will get a car.
I'm saying the guy that you
know.
hated the most, the one that doubted you the most, buy them something that they can't afford to keep.
Yeah, we'll see where that ends up. I mean, I have my list, right? Like,
you actually have a list of, like,
yeah, oh yeah.
You know how much confidence that takes to have a list like that?
That's why I said, you know, if you're building a business and you're gonna have like confidence, have an ego behind it, come with the receipts, right? Like, stack those receipts. So
some of those
high.
receipts are, hey, these people helped me.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, like you stack the receipts, you know, and then people that doubted you, it's like, all right, that's cool, motherfucker. Like, you'll see what I'm gonna do. Like, it's real, right? So I tell a lot of people they don't aim high enough.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they're like, oh, like, I want to do this. Like, I want to have, like, this bakery. You know, and some people are satisfied with that. Like, and that's okay. Like, if that's what you want, that's cool. But me, man, it's like, look at the moon. Where can we take this thing? Like, how, like, realistically, how high can we bring this thing and make as much money as possible?
Yeah.
And, like, that's what I've done since the beginning.
Yeah. But it sets your expectation of work there, too.
Oh,
because
yeah.
you can't, if you want to own a bakery, you can work to own a bakery, but you can't say, hey, I want to own a chain of bakeries.
Yeah.
And still work like you're just trying to own a bakery. Like, it's a different level. It's a different level of work, a different level of learning, a different mentality behind it.
I think, so this place right here, Catapult, we're at in Lakeland.
Yeah, shout out to Catapult for,
man,
you know.
Catapult. So my girlfriend at the time forced me to go to a Catapult, like, startup thing, like how to, you know, start a business and stuff.
Sounds like she really used to push you, bro.
She did, 100%. She did. Yeah, we don't gotta get on that subject.
Yeah, no, we
but
don't.
yeah, she pushed me a lot, and you know, I sat in that room the first night and showed everyone my product, and they were just like, "Remember me when you make it big." Right? That's like what they would all say, you know, and they would ask, you know, what do you want to do? And I'm like, oh, like, I want this to be officially licensed with the NFL, the MLB, like, that's my target, like, that's my goal. And they're like, oh, like, how are you going to get there? And I'm like, no fucking idea. Well, guess what? I'm going to get there. Like, that's the goal, and that's where I'm shooting for. And every single day it was working towards that goal and aspiration. And now, you know, the goal for us is move as many units as possible, get some massive partnerships, get in big retail distribution, and see where it goes.
There you go, bro. If you don't believe in yourself, who will?
True that. I appreciate it.
No, I appreciate you, bro.